Dinghai Fusheng Records. Chapter 57. Ancestral Home. Another shadow came dashing along the street towards them, shouting, "Monsters! Monsters!" After entering the city, Feng Tian immediately noticed the resentment towards the southern part of the city and rushed over to help. His shouting combined with the commotion Xiao Shan caused woke the entire street. As the lanterns were lit, the three drought fiend kings shoved aside the tiles, turning into black flames and flying away. Who? Chen Xing supported Xiang Shu as the two of them staggered towards the east of the city. Chen Xing. Xiao Shan's voice seemed to be incensed. Chen Xing. Xiao Shan. Chen Xing turned his head back and, seeing Xiao Shan racing towards them, stopped in his tracks. Xiao Shan was running on all fours along a small alleyway towards them. When he arrived in front of Chen Xing and Xiang Shu, he blocked off the road in front, his face filled with rage. He looked at Chen Xing without speaking. Chen Xing was exhausted. Xiang Shu furrowed his brows. "You were supposed to stay in Karakoram, why did you follow us here?" Xiao Shan was so angry he couldn't speak, instead letting loose a loud shout and leaping forward like a whirlwind to hit Xiang Shu. "Quickly, stop!" Chen Xing turned his head and spoke rapidly, "Xiang Shu can't fight with you right now." "Xiao Shan! It's so great you're here." Xiao Shan shoved Chen Xing aside and took a few steps back. Chen Xing didn't know whether to laugh or to cry, so he asked, "How did you find us here?" Xiao Shan stayed stubbornly silent even as his eyes turned bloodshot. Chen Xing turned his head back again, checking to see if the drought fiend kings had returned, before busying himself with supporting Xiang Shu, saying, "Come with me, come. Let's go. This place is dangerous." The three of them hid under a bridge. As Chen Xing checked Xiang Shu's wounds, Xiang Shu let out a tired sigh, closed his eyes, and stayed perfectly still. To the side, Xiao Shan watched the two of them with suspicion. "You're fine, right?" Chen Xing said. "My heart is tired." Xiang Shu just now had been heavily injured by the drought fiend king. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth, he definitely had internal injuries, and now even breathing was causing him some pain. Chen Xing felt very anxious and turned to look at Xiao Shan. "We need to find a safe place," Chen Xing said, "or we need to quickly leave Kuiji." As night wore on, it was very quiet inside the city, the silence was only broken by an occasional bird call. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed on the bridge. "Chen Xing!" Feng Tian's voice shouted. "SHH," Chen Xing said as he immediately stuck his head out. Feng Tian clambered to the bottom of the bridge and sighed in relief. The pursuers have all run away, and all the citizens on the street are now awake and out and about. "Xiang Xiangdi, how is your condition? Let's get up, and we can go to my family's bank to pass the night." "And who is this?" Chen Xing motioned that there was no time to explain. In his state, Xiang Shu's condition seemed to be worsening. Chen Xing needed a way to at least temporarily send Xiang Shu back to Jiankong, because he could not stay here any longer. As important as the matter was, it wasn't as important as Xiang Shu's safety. They could always return later to investigate. Feng Tian slung Xiang Shu's arm over his shoulders so that Chen Xing's burden was lightened a lot. After hurrying out from the bottom of the bridge, what greeted them were the quiet residences of the city's eastern portion. A year of the plague had caused all the houses to appear gloomy, as if they had been crushed wholly in body and spirit. When Sirius rose in the night, their surroundings seemed as serene as a ghost city. "We need to pass through Zhong Road," Feng Tian said. "If we hurry while heading north, it'll take us at least one shishan, but we should arrive at the Zifeng Bank before sunrise." "Wait." Chen Xing suddenly thought of Wu Qi words. Originally the Xiang family home was located on the river bank near the Willow Bridge. The Willow Bridge was exactly the bridge they had hidden under. He said, "Come with me." Chen Xing arrived at the entrance to someone's home and knocked. By the door hung a lantern with the words Fang Manor on it, and by the side of the door was a peachwood sword used to ward off evil spirits. The owner of this manor was named Fang. The family used to be large, but because the owners and their gaggle of children had all caught the plague, they dismissed their servants and needlessly spent a lot of their wealth. Originally they thought they had nothing more to do but to wait for death, but this illness left them stuck halfway, and all they could do was continue onwards, day after day. At this time, one elderly servant and one youth from the Fang family sat across from Chen Xing. He explained his situation. He was a passerby and his companion got sick. They were hoping to borrow a room and stay the night. Hearing this, the other party readily agreed and went to go tidy up a guest room. Feng Qunjun originally wanted to give him some silver, but the other party refused to accept it. The master was already bedridden from the plague, so if others that were similarly ill came along, he would help as much as he could. Spontaneous acts of kindness were good in times like these. Chen Xing checked over Xiang Shu. When they were facing the enemy, his internal organs had sustained such a huge impact that they were bleeding internally. Thankfully the wounds weren't heavy. He used a needle to poke through the meridians, and soon enough Xiang Shu took a turn for the better, sitting there in his usual daze. Feng Qunjun asked, "Why did you pick this place specifically? Is there any special meaning to this place?" Chen Xing then explained all that had happened during their journey. Xiao Shan also didn't bother paying attention, choosing instead to sit on the side of the bed in a daze across Xiang Shu. The two of them, one large and one small, sitting across from each other, seemed like two people with mutual dislike just glaring at each other. Feng Qunjun pondered for a moment. Xiang Shu finally spoke, "I trusted you. Who was it that said she has grasp would not reach as far as Jiangnan?" Feng Qunjun groaned. "How would I know? There was no indication of this." Chen Xing asked, "How did they know we left Jiankong to come to Kuiji? They even managed to accurately calculate our route. There was only one road coming down south from Jiankong, so setting up an ambush on that one path was not difficult. Rather, how had those three drought fiend kings managed to sneak into Jiangnan so easily? It could be that they had someone within the city of Jiankong aiding them." Chen Xing kept mulling over it, but he still had no clues. Feng Qunjun checked the windows and the doors again, closing all the ones that could be closed. He used this opportunity to also check if there were crows in the Fang Manor. "When it's light outside," Feng Qunjun said, "I'll send the housekeeper to Zifeng with a letter. Everyone else should stay hidden to prevent the drought fiend kings from discovering us. Then I'll make a trip to the county official's manor. With the addition of the troops they send, we should be able to find those three dead people." Chen Xing thought that at present, the safest option was to seek the help of the county official, but what he was afraid of was the drought fiend kings causing chaos again. If the situation evolved into another Chang'an, there would only be himself to blame. One point in their favor was that, besides Feng Qunjun, they now had an additional strong fighter on their side, Xiao Shan. If they made enough preparations, they could potentially fight on equal footing against the drought fiend kings. "Xiao Shan, you can use Kangsheng Yuli now?" Chen Xing asked Xiao Shan. Xiao Shan was curled up on his side in the corner of the couch, sneaking glances at Chen Xing and Feng Qunjun from time to time, but whenever Chen Xing spoke to him, Xiao Shan's gaze would turn away. Feng Qunjun wanted Chen Xing to explain where this little kid came from, so he asked, "When did you two have a son?" This kind of attitude is exactly the same as Xiang Xiangdi's. Enough. Xiang Shu was currently frustrated and didn't want to continue this farce with Feng Qunjun. At that moment, a voice called from the outside, "Do you guys require any medicinal supplies? I saw that brother seemed to be hurt." Chen Xing felt that this was very well timed and went to open the door to give his thanks. Seeing that it was the young man, he said, "I was just thinking of requesting some medicine to improve blood circulation. If you have some, that would be great." The Fang Manor owner had tried every method under the sun to treat his illness, so he naturally had purchased a lot of medicinal supplies. He had also asked the servants to maintain the supply on a daily basis. The youth picked up his lamp and brought Chen Xing into the storehouse to find him his medicine. Chen Xing said, "To be honest with you, I'm actually a doctor. When your family's Lai wakes tomorrow, I would like to examine him." "Then I really must thank you greatly," that youth said. "That Xiangdi of yours is very good looking, so how did he get wounded so heavily?" In his heart, Chen Xing lamented about the cruelty of life and how events were too long and complicated to explain. Maybe tomorrow, he would let Feng Qianjun first send Xiang Shu back to Jiankong while he himself and Xiao Shan stayed to continue investigating. Xiao Shan's claws seemed to be pretty powerful, so maybe he would be helpful. With a flash he realized, wasn't this the manor the Xiang family used to live in? With that in mind, he changed topics entirely and asked, "I heard that your master's family sold off some old things when they first came. Was this the case?" That youth was startled and responded, 2 days ago, there was a Lindaran from the Ministry of Internal Affairs who asked the same thing. What connection do you have with him?" Chen Xing hurriedly took out Xian's letter. The youth read it by lamplight and then said, "When we moved here, this manor originally belonged to the Xiang family, but the Xiang family at that point had already died out, so the county official took the manor back to resell it, and that's how our family's lord got his hands on it. To tell you the truth, my family's lord and lady have been sick for too long, and the household affairs are all a mess. We didn't have silver taels to spend, so we could only find some items to exchange for money. I saw that the edge of that bamboo slip was inlaid with gold, so I thought that it would be worth some money." Chen Xing resolutely interrupted, "Originally, when you guys cleaned out this manor, did you find anything else?" The youth spoke, "We stored it all on the east side. If you want to go take a look, I can take you there, but don't blame me for not warning you. Are you afraid of ghosts?" Chen Xing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Let's go." The youth spoke again, "I'm serious. Sometimes when I come to this yard in the middle of the night, I hear people talking. You have to believe me." Chen Xing realized after passing through to the other side of the manor that this place was very big, and a lot of places hadn't been properly repaired. In the darkness of the east garden, the old columns, beams, and doors of the abandoned building had already rotted away. It stood in the dark lifelessly, like it was filled with hungry ghosts. But even then, the golden splendor and glory of hundreds of years past could still be seen. The yard hadn't been locked up, and no one would steal things from a family with the plague, so Chen Xing just had to push the door open to get in. The youth, who was evidently not very brave, put the light on the table and said, "I'm heading back to rest for a bit. If you need anything, call for me." After saying that, he hurriedly left. "I actually want there to be ghosts," Chen Xing muttered to himself. "That way, I can at least get some clear answers." Chen Xing put the light on an abandoned cabinet that leaned crookedly to one side, before using the heart lamp to light up the 4 corners. This room was originally an elegant pavilion used by the owner to receive guests, and the front of the pavilion faced a lake. Inside, there were several bookcases with shelves haphazardly filled with scrolls, many of which had already decayed. Chen Xing opened a bundle of bamboo slips that were still tied up. The string holding the bundle together had already rotted away, and with a hwala the pieces fell to the ground. Chen Xing bent over to pick up one of the slips, which had a line of text written on it, "The Compendium of the Spiritual Qi of the Earth." Chen Xing's original hypothesis had finally been proven, the Xiang family was actually a family of exorcists. He immediately opened another bundle, pulling out the first slip, only to see the words, 10 spiritual sights. "What are you looking for?" Xiang Shu's voice came from behind. "Chen Xing, ah!" Chen Xing was greatly startled. "Xiang Shu." Chen Xing gasped for breath and stuttered, Why did you come here?" Xiang Shu frowned and said, "I was afraid you got kidnapped again." Chen Xing gently ribbed him, "Even if the Drought Fiend Kings came to kidnap me again, it's not like you'd be able to do anything. You should quickly go back and rest. Chen Xing was only offhandedly saying that, but Xiang Shu's expression suddenly changed. He was so angry that he was shaking, but the thought of arguing with Chen Xing right there never occurred to him. He said, "You're right, I'm going." Chen Xing could tell that his careless words had hurt Xiang Shu. He hurriedly said, "I didn't mean that." "Sorry, Xiang Shu." Shulakong. Xiang Shu turned and left. Chen Xing watched his figure from behind, and all of a sudden, for an inexplicable reason, he felt sadness welling up in his heart. "Xiang Shu," Chen Xing said, "listen to me." "Xiang Shu, come here and look at what I found." Xiang Shu was going to leave without another word until Chen Xing stepped in front of him to stop him. He hugged his waist and didn't let go. "Xiang Shu." Xiang Shu at that moment grew very uncomfortable. He wanted to struggle but he had no energy in his body, so he couldn't free himself from Chen Xing's hold. Finally, he let himself be manhandled by Chen Xing for once. "Quickly! Quickly let go!" Xiang Shu said, flustered. "What are you doing now? Go away!" Xiang Shu pushed at Chen Xing's head a few times, but he couldn't move him. Chen Xing titled his head, leaning it against Xiang Shu's shoulder. At this moment, he was not only sad, but also moved. He was sad that despite Xiang Shu's strength being lost, he himself had spoken callously and wounded Xiang Shu's heart. He was moved because even if Xiang Shu couldn't protect himself anymore, the thing he most cared about was still his Chen Xing's safety. Sorry, Chen Xing said quietly. "Thank you, Shulakong. It hurts." Xiang Shu said impatiently, though his expression was still a little distressed. "Let go. Are you thinking of getting your revenge on me?" At this, Chen Xing finally let go of him. The two of them stood face to face, both unnaturally averting their gazes like they didn't want to see the other, both afraid of exposing their own inner thoughts. Finally, Xiang Shu broke the silence. "What are you searching for here?" Chen Xing was still running on adrenaline. He didn't know why, but on this dark night, he suddenly and easily understood that between the lines of the stories of exorcists and protectors that he had read in many of the ancient tomes, there were deeper and more complicated feelings involved. "You sit there and don't move, or when I recover my strength, you'll be the first one I teach a lesson to." Despite Xiang Shu's threat, he was still a little unsteady as he walked to the side, where he lifted his head and saw the bundles on the bookshelves. Chen Xing could only sit down in the dusty room. He was still reeling from that moment of intense emotion, and as if spurred on by a swell of impulse, he loudly shouted, "Shulakong, you bastard! You're really good! I really like you so much!" "Xiang Shu!" Chen Xing immediately averted his gaze and subconsciously lit the heart lamp. He didn't know why, but tonight the heart lamp seemed to react to his emotions, shining brightly and endlessly as the light surged and shot out from all the cracks of the ruined house, lighting up the inside of the room like it was daytime. "Stop that!" Xiang Shu frowned. "Do you want to draw all the enemies here?" Chen Xing received another scolding, so he could only quickly retract his magic. Xiang Shu then said in a serious manner, "Using your mana will cause harm to your body. Can't you regulate it a little?" Chen Xing could only answer, "Oh, I just wanted to give you some light." The truth was that in that moment, Chen Xing's heart only felt warm and fuzzy. Almost uncontrollably, he wanted to wield his heart lamp to express the feelings within his own heart. The two people then sank into another period of silence. Xiang Shu held the bamboo slip that Chen Xing had first picked up, and he lowered his head to study it. Strange, wasn't Xiang Shu unable to read the Zhuan script? Chen Xing thought. As expected, Xiang Shu didn't manage to make out anything from it, so he lifted himself up to go investigate the bookcases. Instead, he created a mess, as if he was also using his movements to announce the emotions within his heart. Finally, Chen Xing felt that he couldn't keep watching this. The former family also used to be exorcists, Chen Xing explained. It seems like this was their specialty, the study of the flow of the spiritual qi of the heavens and the earth, and spiritual sites where those ley lines intersect. What are you searching for? Bring it over here, and I'll read it for you. Xiang Shu finally recovered his calm and said, searching for the clan register. Chen Xing suddenly came to a realization and said, you think your mother was part of this family? Xiang Shu had no answer. He breathed in deeply, enduring the dull pain of his injury, and from the tallest part of the bookcase he pulled down a box. From inside the book he pulled out a yellowing silk scroll. Chen Xing let out a noise of surprise. Just as he was about to stand up, Xiang Shu had already taken that case and spread it open on the table. Chen Xing immediately used the heart lamp to light up this silk scroll, and looking at the tiny words scrawled on it, they were all names. Is this a Han-style family register? Xiang Shu asked. Chen Xing said, no, this is a list of those who passed the exorcism department's test and took up the duty of becoming exorcists. This document traced the hundreds of years of glory of the Xiang family, from the founding of the Han dynasty until now. Within the exorcist families, this family really would be considered the descendants of a famous line. Looking at all of these lines, Chen Xing recalled the volume of his own martial line that recorded the deeds of those exorcists. Before every name was listed the year they entered the Exorcist Association, and immediately following were the artifacts they wielded. Beginning in the Yumo year, when the Han dynasty was founded, basically every few years, there was always a Xiang family descendant who passed the selection. This lasted until Han Emperor Wu, Lu Che, took the throne and established the usage of era names, in the Jianyuan years, when a lot of young exorcists qualified at once. Xiang Shu checked line by line. Chen Xing originally wanted to say that hundreds of years ago, the scions of the Xiang family had already become sparse, but only by checking the family register could they confirm it, but suddenly, Xiang Shu began to tremble uncontrollably. His face turned dead white, his breathing began to speed up, and his gaze, like that of a drowning man's, fell on one line of words, Yongping Yuan Year, Xiang Yuan, Luahun Bell. Yongping Yuan Year, 317 years ago. Chen Xing said, dazed. 300 years ago? 300 years. End chapter. Dinghai Fusheng Records. End chapter. Chapter 58. Light Butterfly. It's not necessarily the same person, Chen Xing said, pacing inside the room. Maybe it's just someone with the same name? Xiang Shu. Xiang Shu was greatly disquieted. He subconsciously crumpled the scroll in his hand as his forehead beaded with sweat. If his mother was someone from 300 years ago, then what was he? The two people looked at each other. Chen Xing saw the unsettled look in Xiang Shu's eyes. He had brought up the possibility that there were two people with the same name as a way to calm Xiang Shu, but both of them knew that that person could very well be Xiang Shu's mother. The imprint in the yin-yang mirror, the origins of the bamboo slip concerning the Akala blade, the fate of the Dinghai pearl, all of these seemingly unrelated riddles were finally in this one moment successfully connected together, via the personage of a renowned female Han exorcist. And this woman, it was very likely that she was Xiang Shu's mother. In here? Feng Qunjun's voice asked. Xiang Shu and Chen Xing were startled by this and simultaneously let out loud shouts. Feng Qunjun also started shouting wildly outside, and as the three of them all wildly shouted, Xiao Shan watched them calmly. Around midnight, Feng Qunjun and Xiao Shan had gone searching for their missing companions. First Chen Xing had left with that youth, then Xiang Shu had left as well, but the two of them had never come back. Feng Qunjun stayed with Xiao Shan in the room, the two of them engaging in a staring contest. No matter what Feng Qunjun asked, Xiao Shan ignored him. The atmosphere within this large manor was also quite creepy. It reminded Feng Qunjun of a ghost story he had heard from an old man when he was young. As the storm raged outside the borrowed room, trusted companions disappeared one after the other. The similarities made it really too terrifying. Don't scare people. Chen Xing said. It was you two scaring people, all right. Feng Qunjun angrily replied. Leaving for that long, midnight has long since passed and you two still hadn't returned. Xiao Shan entered the room and stared around curiously. Chen Xing breathed rapidly. Xiang Shu's expression couldn't look any uglier than it already was. Feng Qunjun asked, What did you guys find? Let me see. Chen Xing explained the events to Feng Qunjun. When he spoke of Xiang Yuan's identity, he originally wanted to connect it to Xiang Shu's, but he didn't and chose to swallow it down, but Xiang Shu revealed it instead. She is my mother. Feng Qunjun also understood the impossibility of that statement and shakily said, Your mother lived until she was over 300? Wow, this is very incredible. Exorcists, can exorcists all live this long? Legends spoke of cultivators who had really lived to 200 or 300 years of age, or those who had lifespans equivalent to that of the heavens and the earth, but legends were just that, legends. No one had seen someone like that, and to use this as an explanation barely even made sense. Xiang Shu recalled his memories of his mother and said, She didn't seem like a 300-year-old person. People who had lived that long would definitely have differences between their inner temperament and their outer appearance. For example, an 80-year-old person, even if they had the features of a 20-year-old, would, through their words and actions, show that they were much older than they looked. And what exactly is the Luohun bell? Feng Qunjun asked suspiciously. An artifact. Chen Xing recalled the details and said, It can collect the 2 hun of Yao, humans and beasts. Feng Qunjun, then wouldn't they die after that? Chen Xing waved his hands around as he explained, Humans and other living creatures have 3 hun, the spiritual, earth, and human hun. If the spiritual hun is lost, the person will die. The earth hun mainly controls external emotions and connections, while the 3rd human hun controls your memories. Aside from the spiritual hun, if the other 2 hun are lost, a person would not immediately die. If we have more time then I'll explain it to you clearly. Xiao Shan. Don't randomly touch things. Xiao Shan wasn't tall enough, or maybe he just was bored and wanted to see the items at the very top of the bookcase, or maybe he just wanted to cause a bit of a commotion to announce that he was still here. He reached up with a claw, pulling down the entire bookcase. The entire room was filled with dust as Chen Xing hurriedly motioned for Xiao Shan to come over to where he was. Xiao Shan was visibly displeased, pushing aside Chen Xing, continually pointing at his own ears, and then pointing again at the back door that had appeared after the bookcase toppled over. Chen Xing. Xiao Shan lifted his foot and kicked the door open, motioning for him to follow. Chen Xing, what's wrong? Behind the door was a small alley leading to the Xiang Manor's back flower garden. This small path had not been maintained for almost 100 years, so it was overgrown with weeds. It was almost 2:30 in the morning, and everything was silent around them. The moon peeked out from the black clouds, casting its light over the wild shrubs and overgrown weeds. Did you hear something? Chen Xing asked. Xiao Shan didn't make a sound, but Chen Xing knew that his hearing was far superior to both Xiang Shu's and Feng Qunjun's. Xiao Shan then used his claws to pull aside the weeds blocking the path. Feng Qunjun said, I'll go first. Chen Xing glanced at Xiang Shu inquiringly, asking him if he was staying here or coming with them. Xiang Shu closed the scroll and rose. Feng Qunjun turned his sword around, the blade of the sword still held traces of resentment. Chen Xing glanced at it briefly, clearly, despite their several encounters, the resentment on the sword still hadn't fully dissipated. The dead shrubbery that blocked the road, once cleared out and pushed to the 2 sides, now revealed the secret path they once hid, and on the gentle breeze came an old woman's voice that faded in and out, Stay here. Stay here. Don't go. Female. Is it a female ghost? Listening to that voice, Chen Xing got goosebumps and looked over at Feng Qunjun. But instead, Xiang Shu put a hand on his shoulder, bypassed Feng Qianjun and Xiao Shan, and walked into the depths of the garden. "Don't go, stay here," that old woman's voice mournfully said. "Don't go." A gust of wind blew by, and the dark clouds once again covered up the light of the moon. Listening to that voice, Chen Xing and Feng Qianjun felt the hairs on the napes of their necks stand up. Chen Xing grabbed Xiang Shu's hand, his own feigned bravery towards ghosts immediately vanishing like fog under the sun, saying, "What about we first go back? We'll come back during the day. What are you afraid of?" Xiang Shu frowned as he asked. At the same time, he tightly grasped Chen Xing's hand, interlocking their fingers, before saying, "You're not scared of drought fiends, but you're scared of ghosts." Chen Xing mumbled, "Mostly it's because it's so late in the night and we can't see anything. It's too scary dash. Heart lamp." Xiang Shu squeezed his hand, and the pressure of his large warm hand had Chen Xing slowly calming down. Chen Xing trembled even as he wielded the heart lamp in one hand, which lit up the surroundings with a bright white light. The light shone over a rockery, bleaching it of its color, and off the swing hanging from the tree next to it. The swing slowly swayed back and forth in the wind, creaking gently, which lent an additional element of horror to the already hair-raising scene. When the heart lamp shone on it, that voice increased in volume, as if it had been influenced by the light. "Do not go. Stay here," the old woman's voice loudly said. Feng Qianjun and Chen Xing immediately felt their souls leave their bodies. Chen Xing hurriedly hid behind Xiang Shu's body as Xiang Shu stopped in his tracks. Only Xiao Shan cautiously walked towards the rockery. "Don't go," that voice moaned again. Xiao Shan tilted his head, pointing his claws towards the rockery. The voice was coming from the ground underneath the swing. Xiang Shu said towards Chen Xing, "Don't be afraid, I'll go check." The four of them stopped in front of the rockery, and as Xiao Shan used his dragon claws to dig at the mud a few times, from below the earth the voice spoke without stopping, "Stay. You must stay here." Feng Qianjun also felt a little uneasy and said, "I say, what about waiting until daylight to continue digging? Little brother, quickly stop." Chen Xing said, "It's very late at night, what would we do if we dug out a dead person?" In Chen Xing's brain, there had already emerged the possibility that in the ground below, there was an old woman who had been buried alive, so her resentful spirit hadn't dissipated. He didn't dare take another look, but Xiang Shu rolled up his sleeves and began digging, and with Xiao Shan's help, they had dug less than a chi deep when with a dong sound, they hit something metallic. This time Feng Qianjun and Chen Xing felt their souls leave their bodies at the same time, and Feng Qianjun immediately cried out, "I'll leave first." "It's not a coffin," Xiang Shu said impatiently. Following that, Xiao Shan pulled out a square copper box about a handspan in size from the soil. Chen Xing. Feng Qianjun, after seeing it wasn't a body, finally let loose a sigh of relief. Chen Xing also finally wasn't afraid anymore. Then they heard, once again, that old crone's voice coming from inside the box, "Stay, stay. What is this?" Chen Xing was much better and, taking the box, saw that there was a copper lock on top. Xiao Shan put it on a rock by the rockery, and with a swipe of his claws broke the lock. Chen Xing motioned for everyone to back up a bit before moving forward to open the box. Suddenly, "You're not afraid?" Xiang Shu watched Chen Xing incredulously. "Chen Xing, it's not a ghost, so it's fine." Feng Qianjun hugged his own arms, saying, "What if there's a ghost living inside?" "Chen Xing, then. Once I see something tangible, I'm no longer afraid. I'll open it to take a look, but you all should be careful." Feng Qianjun said, "Let me." Feng Qianjun used the tip of his saber to gently lift the edge of the box, in case there were any hidden traps. After opening the box, the lid flipped up, and with a paw sound, it sprung open as the inside of the box emitted a faint light. Inside there was a single withered blossom, and on its petals a single glowing butterfly perched delicately. It gently flapped its wings, and that faint blue light was being emitted from its wings. From the butterfly, there came a weak voice, "Stay." Chen Xing. Everyone furrowed their brows upon seeing this spectacle. Xiang Shu then asked, "What is this?" Chen Xing, "I don't know. Let's take it back to study it." Xiao Shan, "Don't randomly disturb it." Xiao Shan had taken off his claws and moved forward to catch that butterfly. Xiang Shu immediately grabbed his wrist, yet that glowing butterfly kept gently fluttering its wings, flying out of the box, scattering glowing dust around the spectators while flying slowly upwards in a spiral. "It wants to fly away," Feng Qianjun said. In response, Xiang Shu stretched out his hand and pinched the butterfly's wing with 2 fingers, not letting it escape, but in the moment of its capture, the butterfly dissolved into glowing powder and disappeared. The entire dark garden lit up in that moment, with every dead shrub and weed in the area regaining its life energy. The yard was filled with the sound of flowing water as countless memories came flying at them, and they were suddenly transported back to the Xiang estate of 300 years ago. Xiang Yuan, who was wearing a set of martial attire, sat on the swing, rocking with the gentle breeze. A man walked into the garden, and Xiang Yuan lifted her head and glanced at him. The two of them both turned their gazes away. "The old lady has lived too long, so her temper's too stubborn," Xiang Yuan gently said. "Lu Ji, don't take what she said to heart." That man who had been called Lu Ji was precisely Zhang Lu. At this moment, he turned his body a little and took a few steps into the garden. His face was fair, with a few wisps of hair tickling his jaw. His 5 facial features were well formed, and he even could be described with the words pretty and handsome. If he wasn't standing in such a forceful pose, wearing a set of scribe robes, people could mistake him for a woman. Zhang Lu said, "Of course I wouldn't care, but you. I originally believed the Xiang family was more reasonable than I imagined, but now, it seems like I've caused you some difficulties instead. Never mind, I'll think of some other options." Lu Ji. Xiang Yuan stood up from the swing, but once again was lost for words. When Zhang Lu turned his body, she couldn't help but say, "You really want to, go about it in this way?" Zhang Lu smiled gently but didn't respond. Xiang Yuan spoke, as if to herself, "Too crazy, this is just too crazy. Do you actually know the consequences of what will happen if you did things like that? Between the earth and the sky, all magic would be lost. From here on out, there would be no more Yao, no more Mo, and there would not be exorcists," Zhang Lu calmly said. "The world would return to being a world full of mortals." Xiang Yuan sank into a deep silence, and Zhang Lu continued, "If these cultivators with their strong power were allowed to continue like this, who would be able to control them? Mara is only reincarnated once every millennium, and for this one godly tribulation in 1,000 years, is it worth allowing the exorcists to continue on, inevitably setting them onto the path of evil? The way I see it, the divine land doesn't need to wait for Mara to reincarnate. Within these lengthy 1,000 years, it would first be destroyed at the hands of the exorcists." Xiang Yuan frowned and said, "Lu Ji, you're always like this. Why do you always like to think the worst of people?" Zhang Lu answered, "The Chang'an exorcism department faces the danger of an internal schism, yet you still think these kinds of things wouldn't happen? Exorcists still distinguish themselves into Hu or Han, but their job of capturing demons has no distinction between Hu or Han. Mortals have laws, and the government to mediate their struggles. If the exorcism department were to split, who would mediate between them?" Xiang Yuan earnestly said, ignoring the other issues and just focusing on the matter of taking away all mana in this world. In doing so you would become the enemy of every exorcist under the Sunday. "So what?" Zhang Lu said. "At that time, I'll already have left." "Yuan, you should know exactly how important this matter is." Xiang Yuan was dismayed and upset, saying, "Lu Ji, you really think that only with the Dinghai pearl and the Akala blade, the devil god can be vanquished?" "Many paths of this world are lined with brambles," Zhang Lu answered. If the only way forward is to expend all your effort despite knowing that it's very difficult, would you back down? The two of them suddenly stopped their exchange, looking towards the entrance of the garden, where an old woman filled with rage stood. Damu, Xiang Yuan lowly said. Zhang Lu greeted her slightly, before turning and leaving. This address of Damu was the same as the address Zumu in the region of Kuiji. The Xiang family's old Zumu at this moment walked towards Xiang Yuan, coldly saying, "Make Zhang Lu leave tomorrow. He's not allowed to stay with my Xiang family." Xiang Yuan wanted to argue, but she gently breathed in instead. "You're still not happy," the old woman said in a cold tone. "Believing what Zhang Lu says, dictating my Xiang family to make irreversible bad decisions." Xiang Yuan contemplated for a second, before suddenly speaking, "Damu, defeating Yao and slaying Mo has been my life's calling. In following Lu Ji to dispatch the devil god, this child is merely following our calling. You think this is the same as making a long trip to Chang'an or Luoyang," the old woman coldly said. "You are going to 3,000 years ago." These words lanced through Chen Xing's thoughts like a thunderclap, but the grandmother and her granddaughter continued to speak, leaving him no time to muse over the deeper meanings in those words as he subconsciously absorbed this vast amount of information. The old crone held a walking stick in her hand, her fury unceasing, and said, "Zhang Lu's plan clearly won't work. When Mara appears on this earth, the heart lamp will inevitably appear, and the heart lamp and the Akala blade are bound by destiny. Even now, you two don't have the heart lamp, but you still want to travel to 3,000 years ago to slay the demon. How would that work?" Xiang Yuan argued back, "But Lu Ji has also said that as long as we return to the battlefield where multiple powers were vying for the throne, when Chu had already been weakened by the descendants of the emperor, we can still succeed with the power of the Dinghai pearl. In doing so, the millennium-long curse that has been hiding in this wide area of the divine land would also be eliminated." "Stay," the old woman said. "You must stay here with me, Yuan, don't go." Xiang Yuan looked away from that old woman's glare, her gaze was extremely conflicted. "Damu," Xiang Yuan gently said, "I remember that in this life of yours, your greatest regret was to separate from Deifu. You've also said before that there would be one day, when—" "Don't say any more," the old woman said, surprisingly forceful. "I won't let you go with Zhang Lu." The old woman was filled with passion and panted heavily after that sentence. Xiang Yuan busied herself with taking care of the matriarch, supporting her as they left. The interior of the garden suddenly cycled through the 4 seasons. It was first filled with spring flowers whose blossoms flew like snow, before the sky changed to one filled with falling snowflakes. Within the multitude of shadowy figures, Xiang Yuan's appeared, carrying a sword box. She wore a set of ordinary robes, and as she walked into the garden in the midst of this harsh winter, her beauty appeared even more refined with no equal, and those eyebrows and 5 facial features seemed to share some similarities with Xiang Shu's profile. Pinned to the sleeve cuff of her drab martial robe was a piece of black crepe. "You're prepared," Zhang Liu's voice said. Zhang Lu was wearing the clothing of a Hu person, which showed off his well-built physique, and following this statement he walked into the garden. "Lu Ji, the Akala blade you asked for." Xiang Yuan placed the box horizontally on the stone table and opened it. Inside was exactly the same heavy blade that Xiang Shu had obtained from the exorcist's department. She then spoke again, "You don't want to take a look? This was the godly weapon that my Deifu used when he was alive. We'll store it temporarily within the yin-yang mirror," Zhang Lu said, pulling out a mirror and putting the sword into it. "How much did you bring from Chang'an?" Xiang Yuan looked sorrowful but not hurt. She had seemingly already left the pain of her matriarch's passing behind, and her expression was set in one of determination. "I brought all the Tianzi-level artifacts," Zhang Lu said. "There are still some skills that I have not shown the public, due to the convenience of my position." Xiang Yuan helplessly began to smile, and under the influence of that smile, the garden temporarily became filled with the warmth of spring. Zhang Lu lifted his hand again, and from the center of his palm shone a magic pearl that constantly emitted bright light. Chen Xing only felt that in that 1 second, all the blood in his body froze. That pearl emitted a strong light, but its actual shape and details could not be seen clearly. This is the Dinghai pearl. Xiang Yuan was also seeing it for the first time and, as she reached her hand out to touch it, the Dinghai pearl's light grew in intensity. Correct, Zhang Lu said. This is where the nucleus of the region of the divine land we exist in is located. These golden rings are what I will call tide rings. Time is like an ocean, and years move like the tide. From now on, we must find a spiritual spot where we can absorb mana, and after setting down an array, we can use the spiritual chi of the heavens and the earth to reverse the rotation of the light ring inside this pearl. With that, time will flow backwards, and events can be rewritten anew. Xiang Yuan stared stunned at the Dinghai pearl, as Zhang Lu put that artifact away and motioned that they could leave now. I still have one more unfulfilled wish, Xiang Yuan said quietly. Give me a little more time. Zhang Lu made a please hand gesture, and Xiang Yuan pulled out a tiny blue-green copper bell. Holding it within her hand, she then gave Zhang Lu a box, and when Zhang Lu opened the box to take a look, there was a single flower inside. Zhang Lu furrowed his brow. Yuan, you. I'll let this butterfly stay here, on my ancestral soil. Xiang Yuan lifted her head, watching the snowflakes drifting down from the sky. Let my memories, like the falling snow, stay here forever, to never leave. Soon, the Luohun bell within Xiang Yuan's hand vibrated, emitting a gentle dang. Xiang Shu opened his 2 eyes wide. Xiang Yuan's body began to shine with a faint light, and from within that radiance flew a glowing butterfly. It flapped its wings, flying towards the inside of the Luohun bell, but Xiang Yuan cupped the Luohun bell, gently shifting it aside and letting the butterfly pass. That butterfly then naturally landed on the blossom within the box. Zhang Lu closed the box, and within Xiang Yuan's eyes there were faint traces of loss. The divine land of 3,000 years ago is still the divine land, Zhang Lu said. The residents of the divine land are still people like you and me. I know, Xiang Yuan softly said, but we will after all never be able to return. I only wanted the memories of the Xiang family to be buried in this place, so that part of my 307 po stay here, in the ground of a time 3,000 years later, to hibernate for a long time. She then buried the box within the earth, before finally rising and leaving together with Zhang Lu. The white light suddenly winked out, leaving behind the 4 people standing in the garden. Chen Xing subconsciously lifted his head, looking towards Xiang Shu. When the cock crowed, the sky had already begun to lighten, and the shadows that had been bearing their fangs in the rockery and the fallow garden slowly faded away. In the same manner, the black cloth that had originally been blindfolding Chen Xing had finally been untied, falling to the ground. At this moment he and Xiang Shu were still holding hands, and Xiang Shu subconsciously grasped Chen Xing's fingers tightly, gently exhaling, as if he had experienced a fleeting dream of a transient life from 300 years ago. End chapter.